On the flip side, it's really cool to sit in a room with three of the brightest minds in the country and have them all stumped.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you don't want to hear the words rarest of the rare. Okay, I'm recording. So we're just going to talk about yesterday at the cancer center.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start by asking you questions so that'll make it easy. Okay? How long does it feel like we waited for this appointment?
Forever.
And how satisfied do you feel now that we've talked to the experts? Out of 10.
Maybe 5. How about you?
Yeah, 4.5. Just a bit under you, I think. So let's talk about that. I guess we were both hoping to get more answers than we actually got. On the flip side, it's really cool to sit in a room with three of the brightest minds in the country and have them all stumped. So,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't want to hear the words rarest of the rare. What did they say about my brain again?
Well, first, it's a rare tumor, which is usually found in children. So he said you have a
Childish brain.
childish brain.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so he said, first of all, it's usually not found in adults. So that was one thing, saying that they don't have much information because they haven't had many people with that. And then also, what is it called? The one like mutation or the one?
The BRAF mutation.
Yeah. So usually people with his tumor have this one BRAF mutation, but he doesn't, of course. So that's makes it more rare, makes the rare more rare.
Have the rare version of the rare tumor.
Yeah.
The stats they gave me were that of all the astrocytomas, less than 1% of them are mine, and something like 0.3% of them have the genetics mine have. So I have the most vanilla, rarest of the rare tumor ever. The one thing they said it does have is this MGMT methylation pathway, which is of dubious value actually, because he said if it was a glioblastoma, we would know right away to put you on what chemo to put you on. But with this, all the literature is really what's available. It's sort of a coin toss whether it's going to help me or hurt me to go on chemo. So I think we'll start with the first doctor, and her specialty was oncology radiation. How was she to talk to?
Yeah, she was really nice. They were all really nice, but she was, yeah, she seemed to say that no matter what, because it's a grade 3 tumor, that they would treat it with radiation.
Yeah.
Because that was a standard.
Because the test showed that my tumor cells are actively dividing at what they would call a moderate rate. So because of that, radiation generally has an impact. Because the faster your tumor cells divide, the more likely radiation is to have an impact. So,
yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword to have rapidly dividing tumor cells, because one, your cancer is growing faster, but two, it means the radiation actually has something it can do. So
at least that was a good thing.
And she showed me all my MRI pictures and let me take pictures of them. So I'll throw a couple in the video.
Yeah, what was nice is that they were so patient, I found, and just, it's the one thing, they didn't rush you through anything. They let us ask to see the MRIs and let you take pictures of them, and of the MRI pictures.
It's pretty rare in Canada that you don't feel rushed when you're talking to a doctor. Or you don't feel like they just need to get out of the room to the next appointment. It was nice. They really took their time. So she came in and she went through all the pictures and explained the MRI pictures to us and let us take pictures, which, being a YouTuber, I appreciate. It's all content, right? And looking at the MRI now, I think I'm going to throw it on screen while I talk, because it really hit me when I got home and just took 5 minutes and just looked at this MRI with the tumor, how the whole left side of the picture, the brain there, is just all squeezed together, even where the tumor isn't, because the tumor is really just pushing out. And you can see in the midline how it's pushing tissue from the left side of the image. It's pushing brain tissue across the midline into the right side. And so now I can see why they were in such a rush to relieve the pressure, because I mean the whole one side of my body could have gone down. And I can understand the concern why they keep asking me if I have seizures. Because really, I mean, the area that triggers seizures is all swollen and compressed. And I can see why everyone's shocked why I had barely any symptoms. The only symptom I had was anxiety and not being able to type well. So it's kind of scary. And so the next picture, when it's removed, there's a big heart-shaped emoji hole in my brain where the tumor was. And so throw that on screen while we talk about it. And you can see the brain tissue was 2 days after the surgery. They took that MRI, and the brain tissue is starting to come back, and the center line is coming back towards center. And you can actually see now there's a border between the two halves of the brain where the invader from the other side isn't crossing anymore. So that's a really good sign so soon after the surgery. So we met with the radiation oncologist. I probably have the title a little wrong there. And then after she answered all our questions, in came, I don't want to use any of the doctor's names, so we'll call him Mr. Bean because he's from Britain. Mr. Bean came in, and he's one of those guys who just walked in the room and you know right away he's like just the king in his field. He was in a three-piece suit, which I loved, and he was like at least 60 years old, and you could really tell he just speaks from deep experience and deeply caring about his patients. And he really was really wonderful to talk to. And so he recapped they had met with a committee of doctors, and he recapped what they all agreed upon, which was, we're going to recommend you go on radiation and not chemotherapy, and we'll save the chemotherapy to see if the tumor comes back. We'll have it available to you then, because really it's a wild card whether or not it even works. But we know for sure it'll make you sick. So without an evidence base, that was our consensus in the group meeting. So now we're going to send in the chemo doctor. That's where the fun starts. And he's going to explain why we made this decision to you, and then you'll at least have that personal contact for if the time comes for chemo, you'll know each other. And so the two of them leave the room, and then the chemo doctor comes in. Again, very nice man, right? Like very personable. Mm-hmm. And he threw us for a loop, right? Like, what? I mean, I can let you tell the story. What happened?
Yeah, I can't even.
After the other two came in and said, "This was the committee. This is what we agreed to do," and they had us sold on it. He comes in and.
Yeah. So what did he? He just said this is what we were kind of talking about, but I want to leave it up to you to decide if you want chemo or not, because we just went back and forth, of all different. He just said there's just no way of knowing because there's such rare cases of what you have that there's nothing really to prove, what the outcome would be. So he's like, it's just guessing. We're just guessing. Like,
I mean, at this point I was pretty flabbergasted because I thought I had consensus of the experts, and it was pretty obvious to me that he's probably changing his mind every 2 minutes because it's so borderline what he wants to do that his gut's telling him possibly one way and the evidence is possibly saying, just be cautious. And he told us he's talking to a doctor in Calgary. Calgary has a good reputation in Canada, their cancer research. And that doctor thinks they should do chemo. But there's a bunch of other doctors in Canada he hasn't heard back from on my case yet. So he left it up to me, and I just wasn't prepared to make that kind of decision. Or even, I thought, my mindset going in is they're going to recommend a course of treatment, and I'll decide which of those treatments I consent to. But I didn't think I would be like planning my own treatment. So that was...
Because I know you said to him, if it were you...
Yeah, if it were you, what would you do? He wouldn't
But
answer.
he just said he said it's just like guessing. Like he just...
Yeah.
And I mean, he has like over 40 years experience too, so it's not like...
Yeah, if he doesn't have a gut instinct, how am I supposed to?
Yeah, so...
But what... I mean, I put a lot of thought into it, and I slept on it overnight. I have made a decision, and I think Lisa's on board with it. And what it comes down to is, I knew these were the options going in because I've been reading like crazy for a week now. And I kind of figured going in that I would agree to the radiation. I would ask them to hold off on the chemo. And that's how I felt when I woke up yesterday morning before I went and met with them and before my emotions got into play. And I had spent a lot of time coming to that decision. So now that I've slept on it all, I've come back to that same position. Because the first, when you're not sure what to do, there's no evidence to guide you. There's the concept of first principles. And in medicine, the first principle is, first, don't make the situation worse. And going on the chemo without any evidence that it'll be useful will definitely make me sicker. And the chemo, just so you know, it would be 6 weeks of radiation simultaneously on 6 weeks of this powerful chemo, which is a drug, which is a pill I would just take in the morning and then go for radiation therapy. And then I would have to take it Monday to Friday every 4th week and be sick every 4th week for an entire year afterwards. And I have a couple fears on that. One is that this medication is known to cause cardiotoxicity, and I have AFib already. And the other fear is that it can mess with your red blood cell counts and stuff. So it's risky. It's a risky med. And another fear I have is let's say you have a tumor of 1,000, and it's 1,000 cancer cells, a very, very small tumor. And you take a drug, and the drug kills all but 50 cells. Well, the 50 cells that are left alive are the 50 that are immune to that drug. So when the cancer regrows from those 50 cells, the whole new tumor is now resistant to that drug. And that drug is not likely to be as effective if you need it again. So I actually asked him about this scenario, and he said, yes, this does happen. And so just all that thought process I put in, and given that I don't have an expert recommendation in either direction, I think I would just like to leave that aside. And part of that decision, I'll be honest with you, is I do feel as though God has touched me. I've shared that story before, and that God is at my side. And I have adopted lifestyle changes which I think will assist me to fight the cancer and make the radiation more successful, because I'll be continuing my ketogenic diet and rolling in intermittent fasting with the goal of increasing apoptosis, which, do you know what that word means? Okay. So your body is always doing this process. It'll ramp it up at certain times, like when you fast. You have cells that are always being born, and you have cells that are always dying. So apoptosis comes along and takes the dying cells and just tears them apart and reuses them to build new healthy cells, right? So this is a good process. This is if apoptosis is running really well, you might not age as badly. You might not get as much sagging skin when you lose weight, because your body is just harvesting those cells that are no longer needed. So cancer gets a pass on the apoptosis. For some reason, it evades it. But the radiation comes along and zaps that cancer and creates these damaged cells, and then apoptosis starts to remove those radiation damaged cells. So by employing intermittent fasting and a low-carb diet, it's proven you can increase apoptosis. Now, whether or not that actually increases your chances of surviving cancer, no evidence, especially in my tumor, There's no evidence for my tumor for anything. I have the rarest of the rare. So there's no guidelines. There's no rule book for my tumor. They're all totally open. If you want to do this diet thing, you want to take curcumin, whatever, because we don't have any evidence that we can. Your theory is as good as mine. It's basically the message I got from them, because there's no evidence for this pleomorphic Xanthoastrocytoma vanilla tumor with no BRAF mutation and MGM methylation, MGMT methylation. There's, I mean, what do you do with that? So I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing. I know my diet and intermittent fasting will keep my blood sugar and blood pressure in a good place, which will be important during the radiation. And another month I'll probably be cleared to do a little more vigorous exercise, so maybe I can get on the bike and get my heart rate up for 45 minutes at a time. Right now I'm just doing walking, and Lisa's starting to come on some walks with me, which is great. I'm determined to have my walking at an hour a day until treatment starts, and then I'm going to see how I feel. But they did tell me that after radiation, walking is one of the best things to recover from the radiation treatment. Go home and try to get a walk in after the radiation treatment, because it helps clear the radiation out of the healthy tissues where it's not needed. And so the radiation treatment they're going to give me is called stereotactic radiation, which is done on the equipment they call the cyber knife, which is like a bastardization of a robot arm from the auto industry combined with a radiation gun. And they're able to target the tumor within 1 millimeter with this thing. But in my case, while I say this, I got to remember to throw the MRI up again. There's a white border around the tumor, so they want to hit that pretty hard. And then they're going to go with a lighter level of radiation about 1 centimeter around the tumor, because this type of tumor has what they call diffuse edges, so it sort of blends into the surrounding tissue a little bit at a microscopic level that doesn't show up on the MRI. So they want to nail that stuff too, because that's where the regrowth or new growth could occur. So they just want to zap all those little tiny cells as well. And unfortunately with me, the margin, that 1 centimeter margin, overlaps with the short-term memory center. So the symptoms I was experiencing prior to the surgery could return, where I was like, where I go walk the dog and I come home and I find I left the garage door and front door wide open on the house, or I finish cooking and I leave a burner on. I was doing that stuff, so those symptoms could return during the radiation while that part of the brain is irradiated and inflamed. They're hoping they can just completely control that with the steroids, so I get to stay on these wonderful steroids that make me look fat and puffy for another 2 months. But it keeps my brain swelling down, so I got to do it. So the best thing is to use the steroids and not have the short-term memory loss. Then have the short-term memory loss and just try to heal back from it after. Why have it in the first place? So probably going to go back to the original steroid dose of when I was just finished surgery in the first place, I would imagine. I'd rather just avoid that whole thing altogether. And then around that time, I'm planning to be, hopefully, we'll see how sick the radiation therapy makes me, but I'm hoping that we can schedule it so I go every morning for the radiation therapy, and I can do a couple hours on my job in the afternoon and start getting into the flow of that. Fortunately, this course of action is all going to be wrapped up probably the week after Christmas. And then next year, let's have a do-over. Let's have 2024 have a do-over. Let's see how it turns out. But the next MRI to check for a tumor will be 3 months after the radiation, because when they do the radiation, they're going to load that area up in my brain with radiation. But even after they stop, it continues to work for a few weeks. So there's no value in doing an MRI right away. They say we wait 2 to 3 months after the radiation. We'll do your next MRI. Your tumor is just not growing that fast where there'll be anything to see, especially while the radiation's active. your tumor won't be growing fast enough for us to make a determination. So we have to wait the 3 months. So probably March, early April of 2024 will be my next MRI to determine, do we do chemo? Is it maybe there'll be no sign of tumor, and then we switch to monitoring. So it'll either be monitor or active treatment at that time. So I just, we prayed to God just to give us a fighting chance, and we have it. So I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to help as much I can with daily walks. Although it doesn't seem like much, they do a lot. Daily walks, my ketogenic diet, and intermittent fasting, which in my mind can only help. I mean, there's 200 studies on the ketogenic diet for various types of cancers going on, but they never seem to get wrapped up, to be honest. They just always seem to be happening with, you hear early reports of positive results. But what you never see in any of these studies is a negative result. It's almost universally a shift in the subjects. If you plot them all on the same graph, the graph always shifts towards benefit. So I don't see any reason not to do it, especially since the diet itself is so agreeable with me and I feel so good doing it. And I like the food and I'm enjoying doing all my recipes. So I feel like the diet itself's been good. Been good for me in general. It's sort of wreaks havoc with the grocery bill a bit because I keep trying stuff and changing what I'm doing. So are you down with my decision to skip the chemo? You think?
I think so.
What does your heart tell you on this one?
Well, yesterday we kind of changed our mind a couple times.
Yeah.
So whenever you had a different idea, I sort of agreed with that because I thought it was good, and now I agree with what you're thinking right now too.
Yeah.
I don't know, because in a way, when you were talking about doing the chemo at the same time, like hitting it hard right away, I thought that was good. But then,
well, part of it is this morning I woke up early and I hit my computer and I actually did find some new literature I hadn't seen before, which totally supported this decision I'm making now, even though it was only like 11 test subjects. I mean, my tumor is, have I mentioned how super fucking rare my tumor is? I managed to find 11 test subjects, and they just took 11 case studies and looked at the interventions done. So 11 people is just not enough to form a medical recommendation. Nowhere near it.
So what did they say with the 11?
But what it did show in the small study was that radiation, yes. Chemotherapy, probably not.
And at least they said you can do chemo after. It's not like it's...
Yeah, it's still there for me. And part of it is when they said, well, we don't do the MRI so soon after the radiation, they just don't grow back that fast. So I said, well, if it doesn't grow back that fast, I asked the chemo doctor, I said, it doesn't grow back that fast. So is there really a rush for me to get on chemo? I said, 5 years from now, is it really going to matter that I delayed 6 months to start the chemo with this kind of tumor? And he said, I don't know, but in 5 years, yeah, it might not look like it was any difference, like that 6 months, because it'll still be there. I mean, no one's saying you're going to die in the next 3 months, so I probably have time to do the chemo if this doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing they absolutely would not comment on, right, was expected lifespan.
Yeah, because the first doctor said usually we would talk to people about that.
Yeah.
But she said, I just can't. Like, I just have no baseline of anything to tell you.
Yeah.
So.
But
I like when they were saying, in 2 years or 5 years. I kind of like that when they were talking like that.
Yeah.
It's sounding.
Yeah.
But I know they just don't know.
Really, they wouldn't commit to anything. We can't, some stuff's like, we tell someone 3 to 6 months, or we might say 1 to 3 months. With you, we have no idea. We know that there's a fairly high amount of people who go 5 years. And there's people who get cured with just surgery alone, which I've had. So I could be one of those lucky people that the surgery was all that was needed. And then it never regrows. Yeah, so
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, you know, like this decision about chemo. In my mind, it's still going to go back and forth a bit, but I'm just going to stay the course now. There's always going to be a thought in my head. Like, my fear is, let's say 3 years from now, they do an MRI, hey, and the tumor's back. If that happens, am I going to look back on today and say, shit, I should have done the chemo? But you can just torture yourself with those thoughts. And then you have the follow-up thought, well, if it's in 3 years, then the chemo will be available to me then, because I didn't use up both bullets. Mm-hmm. I still have a bullet in the chamber to shoot. So, I mean, there's no good way to make this decision. I know the best part of it is I have this wonderful lady with me. I'm not in it alone. That's the best situation. No. That's the best you can make of a situation like this, is to have someone in your corner like Lisa here.
And a lot of people are helping you and praying for you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You can do this.
Yeah. We'll get through this. Okay, I think that was a pretty good talk with the audience. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was good.
Yeah, let's do this again sometime. Okay. Should we have Lisa Bear back on the channel soon? Okay. Guys, if you've had to make a decision like this in your life, I'd love to hear about it in the comments, right? We'd like to see that. And tell us, how you came to that decision. Or, you can do this thing on YouTube now. You can reply with a video of your own in a comment. So that would be kind of cool if someone wanted to do that. Yeah, and, don't forget to like and subscribe if you watched this to the end already. And the best thing you can do is go to my website, tickertalks.ca, and click the email alerts and sign up, and you'll get every time I post a video or a live stream on either channel, you'll get to watch it and join in. That's the best way to make sure you don't miss anything from either my AFib channel, which is still going, or my brain cancer channel. So let's talk quickly about next steps. So what am I doing next Wednesday?
On Wednesday, you have to get fitted for the mask that goes on you, that holds you down for the radiation.
Okay.
And then Thursday is when the one doctor is calling you back about your decision.
Right.
He said he was going to have maybe more information for you, so I don't know if that's going to make it harder, but he was going to...
That reminds me, I have to check what time. Do you remember what time he's calling?
I think it was 3:30. He said...
Oh, shit, okay. I just told work I was available. Okay.
I think he said 3:30 he was going to call you, and like if he talked to about 10 doctors, he was going to let you know. He said not that it really means anything, but he's going to give you the opinion of the other doctors that he talked about.
Yeah, okay.
I think, and then hopefully the Monday after is when you would start radiation.
Yeah, okay. So they have to fit me with this hockey mask, because during the radiation, they literally lock in my head to the plank. I'll be like completely unable to move my head. They asked me to shave my beard. I said I don't want to do that, but I'll trim it as close as I can trim it. Because if you've ever seen me without my beard, it's not a good thing. And hopefully I am over this bronchitis by then. I started antibiotics today for this bronchitis. The doctor at the hospital said it might have been from the intubation. Sometimes people get a bronchitis after that. So hopefully I'm over it by then, and this antibiotics I started today work. So, I mean, a lot going on in my body. I'm on a lot of pills. I'm suddenly on a lot of medication. And considering actually how much medication I'm on, I'm doing pretty good considering how much I'm on. I mean, aside from being puffy and looking so puffy, which I hate, and it messes with my appetite and my sleep. And my sleep's actually improved because we changed the medication schedule with the doctor's help. So my sleep's improved, so that makes a huge difference. Well, guys, everyone, thanks for watching. And again, thanks for all the prayers and love and support. We've been feeling it over here. It's all good. We all appreciate that.
Definitely.
Thank you all for watching. This is your friend, Big Northern Bear and Mrs. Bear.